You want to make money on MMA? LaTB. You want to know who to put it in your parlay? LaTB. You want to know our DraftKings stay away? LaTB. So, who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who was the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick? Everybody say you mean Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that out there living they dream? Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that still smoking all the green? Lesbo and the Bean. Come on y'all, let me hear you scream. Lesbo and the Bean. You wanna make money on MMA? LaTB. You wanna know who to put in your parlay? LaTB. You wanna know what DraftKings stay awake? LaTB. So who has the Leslie Smith underdog pick? Who is the Mexican dude and the lesbian chick? Everybody say you mean Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that out there living the dream? Lesbo and the Bean. Who's that still smoking all the green? Lesbo and the Bean. Come on y'all, let me hear you scream. Lesbo and the Bean.
Welcome back, everybody. Technical difficulties have been keeping us away a little bit, but we're getting it together. The internet's a hell of a bitch mother that you have to wrestle in a position sometimes.
Mics and internets and turning up knobs and down and power sources. Can you imagine how great this show would be if we had a little bit of money for production? We're talking to you, Netflix.
Netflix, just in case.
That's
we
our
know you're listening.
manifestation. Netflix is gonna, some bigwig over at Netflix is gonna be like, you know, we do need a live MMA podcast.
In time.
We do need a little bit of LaTB in our life.
Yeah, we definitely need to be funding that. Right now I'm paying the bills. Right now I'm just paying bills.
A little more time.
Yeah, a little bit more Patreon. So you know where to find us. Definitely welcome back. Heck of a weekend's gone on. There is too much to talk about and nowhere to go. And we just got more and more coming down the line. We got another fight card coming up out of Sydney, Australia this coming up weekend, but our post show did pretty good. Feel like Lesbo had a hell of a win in on Tapology. Ended up placing in the top 10. What did it?
I ended up actually in 11th.
Oh,
I think in 11th.
My bad. I was trying to push you up, or I was trying to give you an inch there. But either way, great picks. There was a few upsets. The night was tricky. Some people we definitely had on cards came through, some didn't, but we ended up starting with Carl Robertson defeating Darren Stewart, and that was in round 1. Stewart, get out of here. Time to go, my friend.
Get out of here.
You just had 185, didn't do it, chin still gone, and so is your gas tank. Carl Robertson, someone fun to look out for in the 185 division. Definitely liked his striking. We still don't know as much, though, how far his gas tank is going to go because it was such a one-sided fight. So, someone to keep an eye on. The hype, be careful with it because he does get a lot of finishes, but the caliber of competition hasn't been... It's starting to get good.
I ended up in 7th place.
Oh, top 10 finish,
10.
top 7 finish.
I got 11 of 13.
Woo!
And the 2 that I got wrong, I would say probably most MMA gamblers or bettors or watchers got wrong.
I'd agree. And the next one coming up that most people ended up getting wrong was Jake Collier defeating Marcel Fortuna at 205 pounds. The chin of Collier is still something that I'm really scared about. I actually thought that it could have been a split decision either way. Neither fighter I'm going to put money on from this point out.
No, both are hardly hanging on to UFC caliber, and if they were in a lower weight class, they wouldn't be there.
Agreed, 100%. Jake Collier, yeah. That's all we need to talk about that fight. Moving on to the next fight, we had a unanimous draw between Sean Strickland versus Court McGee. That wasn't actually a draw. Bruce Buffer and the refs got it all fucked up. It was 30-27, 29-29, which
Strickland won it clearly.
Majority decision. The interesting thing about this fight is that Court McGee looked way better than he's ever looked. way, way better. He put a hell of a pace on Strickland, didn't let up, and that's where I could see it being a 29-29 round, potentially, because Strickland won the first round, McGee won the second, third one was up in the air. One judge, I think, had it right. I had 29-28, Strickland winning a unanimous decision in my eyes, but Evil Twin was all like, ooh, Strickland sucks. Strickland tends to do this. He tends to fight to the caliber of people, but can still eke out wins. Not good, but DK, 91 points. I'll take that all day.
All day. Good. He was a good price for it. We called it at the beginning. He was a good guy to have all over your cards. It was a good week to listen to Lesbo and the Bean.
I would agree with that, because even with the Collier fight, going back to that Fortuna, I feel like I was telling you guys, Jake Collier, if he wins, it's a decision, and it's because his wrestling comes through, and I feel like that's exactly what it ended up happening. So if you were smart and stayed away from that.
Our number one, though, I'd say our number one call coming up on the next one we're about to talk about.
Right.
If you put this on your cards, you were sitting pretty for the whole rest of the night.
The Wager Gager came through again. Wager Gager. All over it.
And it should have been a Leslie Smith.
It could have been. It could have been, but I still went with Angela Hill because I thought it was going to be a split decision.
Oh, that's why it wasn't a Leslie Smith, because you went with Angela Hill.
I still went with Angela Hill. And
I say I called this fight pretty dead on. Angela Hill is just a little overrated. She just hasn't lived up to her potential in the UFC.
Totally.
That's the better way to put it. And Ansarnoff, we're seeing when you're married, living, lovers with the champion, that's how much it brings to your game. We see it for the women fighters all the time that are with men. Same can be said about a woman who's with a woman. When you're just with a guy of that caliber or a woman, you're going to step up. Your game's going to be better. Rose, Ronda for a period of time, so.
What I didn't like with Asnaroff, even though she got definitely deserved that 3-round decision. She won at least 2 rounds, if not all 3. She really pushed a good pace, had good cardio, and was really diverse with her striking, hands and legs. She does have that Taekwondo background.
Agree. I thought the leg kicks were nice, and I think that's what added
slowed it all down for Angela Hill was those leg kicks, and someone to look out for. But I do think there's holes in Answer. She took more damage than I would have liked.
We are in a crazy time in UFC, or at least women's UFC, with Joanna leaving. That not that Rose isn't going to be as dominant of a champion, but we just have where all of a sudden, let's say Nina comes in and she wins a split decision against Andrade, and she's fighting Rose for the belt.
Right.
You all of a sudden are like, who knows? Maybe Nina could be the champ, where if JJ was the champion, you'd be like, oh, Nina's going to get walked all over. I don't see Nina stepping into that upper 5.
Not yet.
Of women's UFC.
Yeah, I agree.
And to say not yet, I think she's a little too old to...
She might not ever get there. Yeah.
I think she's 31.
I think you're right. Though, with the ladies, they're so young, we don't know what their cap is.
But I still think there's enough, Nina versus, if you take the Carla Esparzas, if you take the Bec Rawlings, if you take... There's a certain few ladies that you could still put her against that you're like, she might be a good underdog for this.
Yeah, totally.
There's a certain few
Totally. I think that's
I don't know about KK. That might be interesting.
That's an interesting
fight.
So, moving on to the next fight, we had Sage Northcutt defeating Micheal Quinones in a 3-round decision. This was pretty lackluster. I feel like a lot of people had Sage, and he really did not come through. Got into his gas tank, though, I will say, like we were saying with Alpha Male, his gas tank has gotten much better, which is just really, really going to help him, and it allowed him to stay ahead the whole fight. Quinones, time to get on out of here.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
I don't even want to see him in Bellator.
You only have 1 gear, unfortunately, and not the greatest head movement. I think he still has a shot, but you need to get together. You brought this up to me during the fight, and it was a really good point. Did because you brought it up, Uriah Faber getting into a bit of a squabble with Sage Northcutt's father.
In the corner.
During the fight.
Not as squabble as much as I'm trying to instruct my fighter what to do in the next round, and the dad was trying to be the head coach too. That is future problems.
Right, and that's why Sage left TriStar, because Faraz Zahabi, who doesn't talk bad about anyone, said that kid's career is going to be ruined because his father. And we saw a hint of it. I don't know if Sage's dad has been in Cali. probably because he's a micromanager of the children. The father put them into karate long before, so agreed. Something to really watch out for with
The thing I have to say about Sage is I did think he looked cleaner than he's ever looked in his fights.
It was all alpha male.
Everything just looked really
smooth
together. He's matured inside the octagon. He doesn't look as sloppy. He looked calculating. He didn't take as crazy risks as we've seen in past fights. I'm liking the direction I'm seeing him going. Like, he's so corny and cheesy, and I know a lot of people like that about him. He needs a different haircut. He needs something, maybe a shave. Get that 90s. He looks like he should be running a cooking show on the Food Network with that hair. Anyways, he's a little too clean cut for me. Uriah Faber, I'm interested into. I think we can talk about it now, instead of getting into it in the main events, and we'll go back into this. What do you think about him getting all into it with just getting his face out there? Do you think it is all setting up for a TJ fight?
I think that Uriah has been saying that he's willing to come back for TJ, and TJ's like, I don't know if I want to do that. Dwayne Ludwig was just interviewed, and he said, yeah, I would love that fight for TJ because it's an easy fight, and he's going to get paid a lot of money because Uriah Faber's still a name, and it's absolutely disgusting. UFC fighters retirement doesn't mean shit. Retirement for me, what I'm starting to understand what it is in the UFC is it allows you to break your contractual agreement.
And it allows you to stop being ASADA tested.
Exactly. So then you do have to go back into the pool, but it does give you a break to be... People aren't just retiring and then coming back and doing all this squirrely shit just because whatever. I feel like people are planning their retirements and comebacks way before they ever retire.
Or even how you were saying later, we'll talk about it in this fight,
right.
But Matt Brown. And we'll get into it.
Right.
Same exact example.
If that fight does happen, though, same as Dwayne Ludwig said, if TJ gets... It's not a competition. Uriah Faber is Uriah Faber, and TJ keeps growing. Enough said.
And apparently Sage dropped out of college officially to concentrate on UFC, which I think is amazing. I think he has enough skill set, young enough to do all this. Kid, you gotta cut the apron strings with your papa.
Yep, you gotta grow up.
Yeah, you gotta get into the camp, and not that your dad can't be there and be supportive. He doesn't need to be there with you every day. And I'm not even saying your dad can't be your corner man, but your dad can be your corner man. He can't be your head coach anymore if you want to go further. He's taken you a really long way. And there's the Stephen Thompson example because his dad's still there.
Yep.
Guess who's still not champion? That's all I have to... You can always be number 2 if that's the goal you want to go for, but I bet if Stephen Thompson would cut the apron strings a little and get some different molding, that could be all he needs to get to that number 1 spot. Anyways.
So, someone to still keep an eye on, Sage Northcutt. It's not all just hype. He does have fight ability, but the movies could potentially be taking him sooner than later.
I just don't think he's that cute. I think his body is very nice, but there's a lot of guys with hot bodies out there. And his face isn't all that good looking. I think
that's a good point. All right, so moving on.
But I like when you told me the
Creed 2.
Brilliant. It's casting. He looks just like... That's how good looking he is.
Yeah.
Do you think Ivan Drago is super hot?
Yes.
Do you...
White America. I grew up on Rocky and was like, that's the handsome. White... I always thought he was stoic. I guess is better than handsome. Very stoic.
Sylvester Stallone was more handsome than Ivan Drago. Hands down.
I don't know. I've always thought Sly Stallone was one of the hideous
I don't know
people.
One woman that thinks Ivan Drago is cute.
Germans.
I don't even know.
That's what I'm saying.
Germans. I'm married to a German.
She thinks he's ugly.
Yeah, and I don't know anyone. I don't think he's even a guy that... He was married to... Do you remember who Brigitte Nielsen was?
No idea.
Do you remember Flavor of Love when he was with that tall, white lady?
Oh, yeah.
That is his ex-wife, and I think they look just alike.
I was going to say, she looks like Ivan
She's
Drago.
in Rocky IV. She's his wife in Rocky IV.
Yeah.
And back then, though, Sylvester Stallone and her were together. Ew. Boom! That's some history.
Incestuous movie
that's
shit.
An interesting... Anyways, moving on.
2, Tatiana Suarez beating Viviana Pereira in a 3-round decision.
Beating or putting on a class?
Putting on a class. I mean, if you listen to that fight, as we were saying before,
I feel like if you were to wrestle me right now, it would look like that match.
There is something to be said, though, that Pereira didn't get submitted. Because even though she was outpositioned the whole fight, she should have been finished long before that if you're dominating her. So she had just enough defense to keep it a decision, but it was 30-28.
I don't know, though, because Frankie Edgar isn't a submission artist. He just grinds you dry. Or Daniel Cormier.
And that's what happened.
Grind you dry.
To the belly. What I was going to say was, in the corner, though, during the minute intermission of the first round, we both heard it. The coach of Pereira said, "What are you doing? What's happening out there? What's going on?" And guess what? Bad coach. Don't ask a fighter what they're doing. You come out to them with a plan and say, okay, you got on the ground. You need to push the knee off, turn shrimp out, and stand up, use the cage. Not, come on, get it together. That's
what are
not
you doing,
productive.
Nimrod?
Yeah, exactly. That's not positive. And I would think that with the ladies specifically, that would be the absolute worst way. Maybe with some guys, that's the way they function. But most women that I've ever worked with in wrestling or other sports, it just doesn't, they're always just like,
get it together, bitch.
Right. They more will look at you and be like, why are you being a dick to me right now? Like, I'm losing a fight. Help me out.
Next thing you know, you're going to be barefoot and pregnant.
Right? So, hopefully she learns.
This is why you make 78 cents to every dollar a man makes. Get it together.
Pereira, come on, get it together. So, hopefully she learns from this and actually expands, because she does have a lot of potential, but she is one of those atomweight girls that we were saying.
What do you think with Suarez? You think
still somebody to watch.
Everybody's hype train is going to be Suarez. Don't feed her to the top yet, please.
It's, of course, I was about to say, well, then Cavillo.
Suarez.
That's
a good fight, though.
Yeah.
Because everybody that wants to go throw Cavillo to the top 4, don't do that to her. Don't do that to her yet. But Cavillo versus Suarez, that's a way to make either fighter look good.
Yep.
That's an interesting fight. It could look boring, though, to an uneducated eye.
Just a ground with minimal strikes. But I did like the output that Suarez had the whole time. Not only did she have dominant position, she kept striking, which really gave her a lot of points as well. She kept throwing elbows, punches, even though they weren't the heaviest. That amount of pressure.
We've seen some of the most dominant positions we've ever seen.
It was pretty unreal.
She just swirled around on her like anywhere she wanted.
Yeah, it was Wrestling 101. Moving on to the next fight, we had Marlon Moraes defeating John Dodson in a 3-round decision. I didn't agree with this. I thought John Dodson had more output.
I had Moraes on this for my decision pick, which definitely added to my night. I don't think he won.
Evil Twin's the only person I know that think he won.
No, I don't think he won at all.
Yeah, because he's evil.
And that's what we've been talking about, that we really need to start looking into what are the specific new rules for UFC.
Right.
New rules for each state.
Right.
Because all this is changing per match, and
Agreed.
You don't know if, like, ring control doesn't matter in this one. Strikes from the bottom aren't going to be noticed. Whereas on a if you're in Nevada, all that matters.
Right.
You know, so I don't know how Moraes could have won this fight. I thought he laid shots that looked more damaging, but there were a lot more laid for John Dodson.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And I would say his accuracy percentage had to have been 30% higher.
Yeah, Dodson had more output and landed more, but Moraes was stunned a few times even. Like, I just do not, I thought it was 29-28, if not 30-27 for John Dodson. I like that you came out with the truth.
Hashtag true.
Dodson got robbed in my ass.
That's
Maybe
one
I'll
thing we can always say at Lesbo and the Beam. We'll give you the truth. And sometimes you might not like it. It might be about fighters we love too. Like, you heard me. You guys hear me falling off the game. It's not that I'm always never going to be a fan. But if we only have one person to fill this spot as our show dude to be our ride or die, I'm starting to wonder if that's game bred. Not that he's always not going to be in still my top 10, but right. He might not be that one for the show anymore.
I do think that keeping it in line with people that are actively going towards that belt is more in line of someone that we want to represent us. And
that's why we haven't taken Bullet off.
When they become champs, though, are we going to be immediately off the bandwagon? Because I think that once they reach that pinnacle, we need a new hype train to go. We don't want Or not even a hype train, an actual skill-based fighter who's an underdog most of the time. So
I agree.
Like,
even like
once
when
they get
Bullet
the belt,
is the
it's
125 belt, it's like we've backed you. You know where you're in our we put you
Grace
on our
the
Hall of Fame.
Yep,
You get on the
exactly.
Lesbo and the Bean. So this is what we could say when we replaced Gamebred.
Right.
He's the first fighter inducted into the Lesbo and the Bean Hall of Fame.
I can see that. I like that.
So when we replace him, which I've just been feeling it out. I'm feeling the Nigerian Nightmare. I'm feeling Team Africa. I'm feeling Kamaru Usman. That's who I'm putting my cards in. He's retweeting us. He's open to us online. He's got the skills. He has personality more than he's getting credit for. I think he is the most dangerous guy that's getting ducked by every fighter.
Every fighter. We'll get into that once we get into our Twitverse. Moving on to the next fight real quick, though.
I have the attention span of a squirrel today. There's so much to say.
There's so much to say. So, Clay Guida defeating Joe Lozon TKO round 1. We said it before, Joe Lozon's chin's gone. Clay Guida doesn't knock anybody out, and he did it pretty decisively. Clay Guida's ready to fight again. I mean, there was 5 punches thrown in that fight. I was all over Guida. He was on every one of my cards. He really saved me.
Guida all day, Guida all day. I wish I would have had him as a knockout. I had Guida decision.
Yeah, I had decision
but
too.
I had Guida all over my DraftKings, and I feel like we were of very few, like 16% of people that thought that.
Yep.
So if you listen to the show, we both told you Guida.
I didn't see the TKO, though. I thought it would be an outpacing to... That was...
I'm really liking the direction of Guida, and I have to say this. He, right now, this is crazy, favorite alpha male prospect.
He, though, himself in his post-fight said, if you guys want me to fight again, let me hear you. I might have a couple more fights left. Like, he's even telling you
I thought he
it
was
might
going to
be
retire.
Right?
I thought he was going to retire.
If he was going to lose, he would have retired. I guarantee you, if he would have lost, he would have retired. But that's where all of a sudden he got a win, and that was a theme throughout the night. He's like, oh, shit. I might have a couple more fights left.
Maybe I got this.
You ain't fighting Joe Lozon's after this, Clay Guida.
But here's the other thing, too. Joe Lozon.
Yeah, get out of here.
Get out
It's time.
of here.
So it's for your own health, sir. It's for your own health.
And I'm no Bellator for Joe Lozon.
No
Bellator.
That chin is too
this
gone.
This is the other thing we're starting to see out of Bellator. And this will be something in the Twitterverse. There's no walkthrough fights anymore. And it's like the people in this game now, everybody's dangerous. Everybody's
It's been like
dangerous.
that for a while. But yeah. Those... It isn't. The walkthroughs now are becoming the elderly fighters that can't take a punch. And that is not who we want in our sport. Bad news is gonna come from that later on in the MMA world. Especially with that Hernandez having the most CTE ever with that when the guy that just choked himself, the football player. Did you hear that information come out? All into the Twitverse, we got so much to talk about. So moving on to the next fight, we had Rafael Sunsao
Squirrel.
defeating Matthew Lopez at 135 pounds. This was a round 3 finish. Matthew Lopez ended up weighing in 3 pounds overweight. Had a Sunsao on a few. He was fairly expensive. Didn't see the TKO come in, but Lopez had some sort of other issues. Maybe it was a real illness. Maybe it wasn't. The 3 pounds is a lot of weight. It means he stopped way before and just took the ass beaten like a man. It was a pretty bad knockout. Matthew Lopez. Woo.
I haven't gotten to see that of Sunsao ever. Because in my career, which also we'll get into in the Twitterverse, it's been an anniversary of sorts. But a Sunsao, holy shit. He looked amazing in that fight.
Oh, no, he's a top 5.
It makes me nervous to be blinded to this hard weight cut going forward. I think doing these shows and hashing all this out, we're going to start remembering all these little details of he won that last fight. Remember that guy's weight cut?
Yep.
So, Sunsao, he's still not worth 9.4 to me. I know he got the knockout in this. I know I had him on some cards. I had him on a lot of winner cards on my DraftKings. That being said, 9.4 is nerve-wracking going forward. People are like, oh, he's title contender again. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. It was a Lopez who was defeated already prior to even getting in there, and sometimes getting a little bit older, for sure. Moving on to the next fight, we had Cesar Ferreira defeating Nate Marquardt in 3-round decision. Nate Marquardt, time to get on out of here. Get out of here.
But Nate can go to Bellator to me. He looked good to me.
I
thought Nate, he didn't look great, but he looked okay. He should change his name to Nate Okay Marquardt.
Yeah.
He looked. He could be in that heavyweight tournament that Bellator is doing.
That's not heavyweights, right?
Yeah, right. He could be in that.
Yeah, I'd agree with
and be
that.
a contender with all those guys just the same way.
It's going to be all guys he fought back in the day anyways.
So-
That Algeria right in that time frame. Fiera, though, still do not put tons of money on this guy. Any
Fiera
good
can
striker,
get out of here as far as I'm concerned, too.
I think that's fade money all day. Good striker
I
with good
agree with
takedown
you.
defense. That's good. People are going to be like, his ground game's good. It ain't that good.
He's going to have that faux record that everybody's going to be like, Fiera.
Yep.
No.
Yep, another thing to
agree
look
with
on
you all day.
later. Moving on to the next fight. This was probably my biggest hit of the night. We had Andrei Arlovski defeating Junior Baby Albini in a 3-round decision. Love the diaper. Absolutely love the diaper.
I was just going to say, this, to me, if my DraftKings was a nice little house with a white picket fence and a beautiful front porch with flowers on both sides, it was like somebody just stuck a dirty diaper on it.
This was a baby inside shitting himself.
Dirty diaper. This guy is not UFC ready yet.
How do you do that to Timothy Johnson, though? He didn't pull the trigger. He
When you're-
gained 20 pounds from his last fight.
When you're this big, I just, to me, he needs to go to camp, and I want to see him at a camp for a solid year. I want him, his body needs to look different. He looks like he's not even fucking trying. He just had such power that if he clipped any fighter in the world, any fighter, it would have knocked him out.
He was definitely did not look anything like he looked like. I think that maybe Albini was one of the few times he's been a pretty solid favorite, and that got to him because he started throwing 1 and 2 punch strike combinations, which wasn't doing it. And that's not what he did against Johnson. Against Johnson, he threw 5 punch combinations with knees. He wasn't throwing any knees, and I don't know if he was respecting the power of Andrei Arlovski, because even without his chin, he can still hit you. But the fact that Arlovski lived through this, baffling. Mind baffling. I had Albini everywhere. The best set of marketing was, I love how he altered his shorts to look like a diaper, and Reebok and UFC haven't said shit about it. And
I think both guys are stayaways.
Albini is definitely mental stuff is what I was going to say with, I think he gained about 20 pounds from his last fight because he had a chunk of change.
He just needs a full year-long
Move away
camp.
from his
so
life.
when he does come back, because both of us said it the whole time, this guy could be fighting at 185.
Yeah.
How dangerous is he at 185?
Yeah.
Holy shit. His legs were enormous, full of cellulite.
Yeah.
Full of cellulite. I just...
He has other disciplines, and the reason he even got into fighting was because he was trying to lose weight. He used to be over 300 and something pounds.
I am not impressed.
So
I am not impressed with your performance.
luckily, what this means for us with Andrei Arlovski
And maybe
is
I
we
am
did
bitter.
Yeah.
Albini did hurt a lot of my cards. We told you guys too. He probably hurt your cards too if you listened to us at all.
Unfortunately,
but
this
if
was
you
one
made
of
the
those.
arrangements around everything else we said,
You still cashed.
You still cashed,
You
and you
still
ended up
cashed.
on the plus side.
Right. So with Albini, it's iffy going forward. With Arlovski, though, the lucky thing is we get to fade him for a couple more fights. We get to fade that
That's
chin.
true.
We get to put a... Unfortunately for him, he should be one of these guys that needs to move on and not to Bellator anymore. He's already left and come back and been
Andre,
knocked out.
no-nos Arlovski.
Yeah.
Speaking of no-nos, we're moving on to that in the main event.
To the Matt Brown. Matt Brown defeating Diego Sanchez at 170 pounds. And we knew what was going to happen. Matt Brown TKO round 1. We thought it was going to happen pretty soon. If it did it all way bigger than Diego Sanchez, even with that weight cut that Matt Brown had. What I remember most about this, other than that elbow, is how disgusting it is. And I feel like we called it prior to the fight that if he gets a win, he's going to decide to stay in, because all of a sudden he got a hand-chosen fight at 155 pounds. The 155er said, okay, I'll have your going-away fight with you. Let's do it. He gets murked, and all of a sudden you're like, maybe I have 3 more fights. I was on a 5-fight losing streak, 3-fight losing streak. Yeah. If Andrei Arlovski calls out a 170er, gets a win, and then wants to keep fighting in the heavyweight division, like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just
It's the
scumbag move.
Guida, Brown, would you even say Arlovski, are 3 dudes that kind of could retire, but we get to fade them now over the next few fights. The same thing about Brown.
I'd say with Guida has the most life
Guess
out
who
of
else
those 3.
wants to fight, though, again? Which I feel Diego Sanchez. He can't wait to fight again.
Another person who needs to get out of here for your own safety, sir. He's definitely the poster boy for traumatic brain injury, and you can see it from his youth to now. Completely slurred speech.
And there has to be some sort of... We don't know how many times you get knocked out, but we know how many times you get knocked out on camera. There has to be a, like, I'm sorry.
In the ring, there is.
We have to take some responsibility.
He's known a warrior.
You've been knocked out 5 times on camera. We can't have that for our sport. We can't be responsible for you being Muhammad Ali later on.
Right.
We don't want that reputation. We want to be safer than football. And I think there's a way mixed martial arts can be safer than football. Because if you aren't sparring hard and then you're going into the ring and you do all your training and then you're going into the octagon and you happen to get knocked out,
yep,
that's fine. They say a fighter's career is only 3 years anyway. So if you don't get knocked out every fight, if you get knocked out, if you fight 5 times and get knocked out 5 times, this ain't for you.
Agreed.
So I feel like there is a way that they can do this safe, and it can be about numbers.
So, well, again, what I remember most about this fight is Matt Brown being a dirtbag. How dare you not retire?
Matt Brown, though, is one of the biggest... But there's so many guys that should have retired in this card.
On this specific card, for sure. All right, moving on to the main event. We ended up having our Leslie Smith underdog pick of the week come through again. The underdog who actually turned...
Again.
To be fair...
Why isn't everyone listening? Oh, I have a little piece of homework real quick.
Right.
Little piece of homework since we're talking about the Leslie Smith underdog pick. You guys, tell a friend. Just tell one friend this week to like and subscribe to Lesbo and the Bean to get their Leslie Smith underdog pick. Don't hoard it. Don't hoard that money from your friends. Tell somebody. We're trying to grow the podcast a little bit, spread our webs, shoot our webs, goosh, across the world.
Sharon is Karen, people. Sharon is Karen.
Sharon is Karen. Who are those bitches?
So, with the main event, this was, to be fair, our underdog who actually ended up being the favorite by Fight Night. So a lot of people must have listened to the podcast.
Truth.
And the money came in on Dustin Poirier. We were all over him. Just as we were saying, Anthony Pettis gets hurt in all of his fights. Anthony Pettis is just on the down turn of his career. And they're unique fight-ending things that happen for him that takes long to come back from. And he's just had a long career. Dustin Poirier looked great. Elbows. In the second round, did Anthony Pettis' nose get completely turned sideways and nobody realized?
I called it from the shot on the ground, but I have a nose sensitivity. I probably broke my nose 16 times, no exaggeration.
Yeah.
So it's the thing I notice in fights, and I notice how I'm like, that's it. That one shot. I will say this, though. I don't even know how Poirier got so hurt in the second round. If not for the blood that was produced from those elbows.
Right.
His ass would have gotten submitted. But he got that greasy, brownie sheen all over him.
That was really intimidating at times. Dustin Poirier was staying on the ground with Pettis and getting into deep triangles and barely coming out of them. He was defending it right, but against the better ace, that's just bad fight IQ. That's something to keep attention to with Poirier. And he is live by the sword, die by the sword. Like, he goes out there shooting, but he's got a wicked left, a good puncher, and this actually ended up finishing in the third round to a body triangle. Body triangles are used heavily in MMA and jiu-jitsu now because it's such a locking position, but in collegiate high school wrestling, the figure 4 around the waist has been illegal for many years because you can separate the lower back with pressure, or if high enough up, you can break ribs, and that's exactly what happened to Anthony Pettis. I don't know if it was, they say it was a cartilage tear, but I feel like Pettis was starting to look for a way out regardless. He was getting beat from pillar to post all the way around.
I think Poirier said it best. It wasn't a broken rib, it was a broken man.
And I think that's 100% the truth. That's what happened in that fight. It wasn't going to get any easier.
One thing I have to agree with you on, totally for Poirier going forward, every single one of the guys in the top 4 right now will submit him.
Yes. Exactly.
Every single one. And
Yep.
I think he could be one of the greats. I really love Poirier. I love his style. I think he's dangerous everywhere. But that has to be something that he works on and doesn't take so lightly. Because if that blood wasn't all over him, he would have not been able to get his neck out of that choke. You almost saw his vertebrae pop, pulling his head out.
It was in deep a few times.
It was a great fight card.
Agreed. I had a lot of fun all the way around.
And I like Poirier getting the winner of Gaethje Alverez. because I do think that fight was bullshit, and I do think Alvarez, it was Poirier's fight toward the end of it, even though he got hurt by Alvarez at the beginning.
I totally agree. And I like how Poirier actually called it out as well. Like, he was like, no, that's who I got. He let them know, and that's the way the UFC's been going.
And we're getting into, now we can get into a little bit of Twitter talk.
Everything that happened over the weekend, there's so much.
So much.
NFL players debuting in Bellator fights going on.
But one thing, speaking of the whole Gaethje Alvarez, I do, okay, to get into that. So let's start with Conor jumping into the ring.
Into the Bellator stuff. Okay, so we had the NFL player quickly. He finished his opponent real, but seeing those type of athletes getting into our sport now is also going to change the game, because now you're going to see real athletes, not just tough guys that are going to start a wean out, unfortunately. So, but it is always a fight. Then we had Brendan Ward main event versus whoever he fought, and he was losing that fight. Brendan Ward, Conor McGregor's brother, other than Artem Lobov, was getting his ass kicked for the beginning of those first 2 rounds. And there's a lot of debate that's going on in what happened, because Mark Goddard, being the ref, never waved off the fight for a TKO. Conor jumped into the ring and has had statements, but not only did he jump in the ring, he pushed the referee, got in the referee's face, and slapped a Bellator employee. So he broke all sorts of rules. He was technically just a fan, but we have the history with Conor at the Lobov fight specifically, being told by the same Mark Goddard, sit down, you're a fan, you're not a ringman right now. What's Conor thinking? What's he doing? Is it just fits of passion? Is it traumatic brain injury? Impulse control is the first thing to go with TBI. What do you think is...
That is all very good points. What do you think about his, in quotes, suspension?
So, supposedly, what has come out is he was going to be on the December 30th fight, and now he's not. But have you heard all of the talkings about...
I don't believe any of this. Right? I don't believe any of this.
I think it's
this
a bullshit
is a bullshit
suspension.
He already said months ago he wasn't going to fight till after the end of the year. So I just think he isn't in trouble at all, but this is another reason he's not in trouble. I love that these are fights, but WME and Bellator and stuff, it's also entertainment. When you're not in the other organization, all of a sudden it's WWE. So him running into Bellator and doing all that stuff means nothing to him. It'd be the same as Ric Flair jumping into the ring with a chair. It means nothing, even though it's bullshit. It's like, remember when the guy fell or he parachuted into the middle of the boxing ring?
Yep.
That's essentially what Conor did. He's just a dude. But that guy that parachuted in the middle of the boxing ring, he got arrested.
Yes.
He incited a riot, I think.
People beat the shit out of him. Watch the video. People were throwing hooks in the crowd. It was awesome.
So there are things about it that Conor's living above the law right now. He's a 29-year-old guy that's $100 million. He has $100 million in the bank.
They were in Dublin.
They're in his fucking town where he just had the number one movie in the last 40 years. Like, no Irish... There's never been an Irish guy so famous. There's people that are talking, he can get into politics, he can run for whatever. He has enough backing by that. He's dangerous right now, probably, in Ireland. He probably has more control over that country. That's crazy.
That's absolutely
It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So, I can't even imagine... He's like a Saudi prince running around right now. Like, he has no rules.
Nothing's happened. He's since come out and had an apology.
What are they going to do to him? What are they going to do?
Fine. They're gonna fine
even
him.
If they fine him, even if they are so scared right now, because even the water bottle incident happened. They were going to charge him $100,000. He said, "Okay, I won't fight in Vegas anymore." Guess what? He didn't fucking pay that $100,000.
Right. They cut
and then
it.
they were like, "You have to do some kind of service where we want you to do PSAs, like public service announcements, and go on TV. That would cost you a lot more than $100,000 for me to speak for your brand. So no, I'm not doing that either. It's all about money.
Of course.
And they are desperate. They need Conor in this game so bad.
They don't need him because the other fighters can still bring in money, but they are not going to bring in Conor money.
Let me just...
Conor money is so much more money than regular money.
Look at how... speaking of desperate, the most desperate thing I've seen all weekend. Oscar De La Hoya.
Oh, you son of a bitch. That's the most fucking... Oh, there's Conor talks coming. Oh, yeah, I could be... Yes, bitch, you and Paulie Malignaggi get in motherfucking line. Get the fuck out of here.
Can we just get
you and every
back
UFC
in MMA?
fighter?
And then I have to say something where I'm calling every analyst naive. Anyone who thinks that Conor McGregor is going to fight more than one fight is crazy. Conor McGregor will only fight another fight if he ends up broke. He's going to take this next fight money and run. And this next fight, this is another prediction I have.
Okay.
It's fucking Nate.
I agree with this. Wait.
And we can get into the other talk. So there's gossip going on right now that Nate's in training camp again to fight at 219 against Woodley.
Exactly. So
I'm calling bullshit. I'm calling bullshit already. It's Conor versus Nate. And if you're Conor, you don't want to take the most dangerous fight in the world for 600,000 pay-per... Tony only brought in 600,000 pay-per-view buys. Conor doesn't... Nate brings in 1 million every time he goes.
Right.
Conor wants that. So Nate's in training. They're trying to keep it on the mum, but I'm already telling you, Ariel, you're bullshit. I had a little rabbit I was keeping in my hat. It was Tyron Woodley versus Nate. Nate Diaz is going to step back in the ring at 170 to fight T. Woods.
Yep.
You're fucking full of shit. You're full of shit. He doesn't want to fight anymore.
Any sense.
And the UFC, who's been in battles, debates about getting Nate back in, and Conor Nate, it's always if the money's right. And Nate's like, I'm not stepping in to make pennies. Like, I'm just as valuable in this fight as Conor now. So you're telling me the UFC is going to pay Nate the money he wants to fight T. Woods? And T. Woods, who pisses the UFC off more than anyone, they're going to give T. Woods a money fight like Nate Diaz? Bullshit.
I
call him bullshit.
It doesn't make any sense at all. But if the UFC has this kind of wager and they're setting it up, I can see that there's a grander conspiracy going on here where somehow T. Woods loses a boring decision to Nate Diaz at 170. All of a sudden, Nate Diaz is a 170 champ. Then guess what's the third motherfucking fight for another belt? Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz for a 170.
So he can be a champ.
Think of the money that fucking brings it. Think of the promotion that level's on.
Or they have Nate Hope. I just don't think Nate can beat T. Woods, and I don't think anyone thinks
But they steal it. That's the... They steal
Or then they have Nate versus GSP for a champ, and then they set up champ versus champ.
Exactly, because that's the end game. Now we're playing with real... posters and
they
shit.
Can't deal with T. Woods.
Exactly.
They can't deal with them. I just don't think they send in Diaz to get him out. This is the other thing about Gaethje, which I've thought about for your talk about how Gaethje's the best fight for Conor.
No, Conor wants it. It's the easiest fight for Conor.
Easiest fight. This is where I think the only reason I think you're wrong, and I think Conor's got to see this too, and I think the second I say it, you'll be like, holy shit, you're so fucking right. Gaethje, stand up, fuck yeah, that's what they want. Conor's stance with Gaethje's leg kicks, that is the worst nightmare. Gaethje's leg kicks are like nothing we ever seen.
Yeah.
I was watching him train and I was like, holy shit, I totally forgot about that whole skill set, and that's the most dangerous part of his game.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what sets up everything.
And everything how Conor does with all his crazy movement is all that kooky.
The thing though with Conor is that I feel like he believes in his power so much, and Gaethje is hittable, that the defense to a leg kick is throwing the hardest left or right down the pipe. And I think Conor could eat a couple to give a few and the fight will be over. Just because Gaethje knows for a fact eventually he's going to get put down. And we know Conor packs a big punch. That's not brand new. He really does. He hurts people that usually don't get hurt in fights. There's so many avenues. Again, we bring up the McGregor on the show.
And I do
without
think
a fight.
Conor, you will see him box again. Mark my words on that.
I don't want to see that at all.
It might be 4 years from now.
Right.
It won't be against Oscar. It won't be against Paulie. The only two ways Conor ever steps in the boxing ring again is going to be if Floyd wants to fight him again for his 80th house. And Floyd would probably get minimal hurt the same way he did this time, stepping into the ring, and that's how he'd see it. His ego would see it that way. Or, crazy enough, I think you could see a McGregor-Diaz promotion boxing fight in a few years.
Yeah.
And I think you see Nate and Nick have a Diaz promotion of some sort. I think they follow suit, and I would even say Conor likes them enough and has what they've gone through and how much money they'll make together over time. I could see him assisting setting up said company. I think he sees money with the Diaz brothers. They're the only ones that know how to sell a fight like him.
Totally agree. There's so many moving
Okay, so that's all McGregor
functions.
talk. Anything else with
Well,
McGregor
what
talk?
I was going to say real quick with the McGregor talk is that with all of the fighting and stuff, he technically stopped the fight that wasn't stopped because McGoddard never had ruled it off. So there's potential other implications, not just him jumping in the ring. Like, yeah, unfortunately, nothing's going to happen because the Conor money is so flowing right now. Anything else with the Twitterverse that
In reality,
we got into?
Conor could run, and this is the other weird thing. He was on a commercial for Budweiser on BT too.
BT Sports and the European.
When we were watching this fight card, it was a Conor McGregor. I was waiting to see what he was backing. I was waiting to see what logo was going to pop up. Did not expect Budweiser. Did not expect to see maybe Guinness,
right?
maybe what the fuck? So then once I saw that, I'm like, holy shit, he's gonna be running for president against Trump, isn't he? He'd probably win.
He's not an American. He wasn't born in America, unfortunately.
I know they changed that rule for Conor.
They might. They really might.
He's got the mafia ties.
For
The
real.
Fertitta brothers and make cut some strings. Anyway, so any more Conor McGregor talk before we move on to all the other craziness going on in Twitter and just around MMA world?
Nope.
All right, so that puts the bow on the
Conor speak.
Irish, the McNugget today. I want to say one thing. Yesterday was the 2-year anniversary of Holly knocking Ronda out in
How far we've come.
Australia. And we're about to be in Australia again.
And we almost had an anniversary. Well, one of the bigger underdogs. I feel like Rose was a bigger underdog than Holly, but it wasn't as big of a deal. Oh, to us it was, but the world, because after Ronda lost, every morning news show was like, and Ronda Rousey lost her belt last night. That didn't happen to JJ.
I miss Ronda's dominance. I miss that lure on a fighter. No one has that anymore. In the whole UFC, no one has
Other than
this.
Conor.
But he doesn't seem untouchable. We've seen him lose to Nate. We've seen him lose to Floyd. We've seen Conor lose. There was something about Ronda. John Jones had it.
Agreed.
But he's tainted. Somebody else who's tainted that is out of the pound for pound talks for always. Anderson Silva.
Which recently just happened.
For the second pop.
Right.
So I miss Ronda's dominance in the UFC, and I just, on the 2-year anniversary of her knockout, I wanted to thank her because I don't know if I'd be such an avid fan if it wasn't for her. So there are pluses into the Johnny-come-latelys and the people that are bandwagon jumpers. I jumped on, but I haven't got off, and I don't see it ending anytime soon. So thank you, Ronda Rousey. I will never see you again in our sport, but maybe I'll watch wrestling one day. Just to watch Ronda. Will you turn on WWE?
No.
YouTube it, the clips?
Yeah, I'll just see what maybe she's... But, like, the whole entire match, I probably wouldn't end up watching.
Don't you think Travis could end up in WWE? Don't you think he has the right height and everything to be some sort of kooky character?
Yeah, but he never really had the personality. He's always been very...
He could take over an Undertaker brother.
Yeah.
Like Kane or one of those where he doesn't say anything. He just has his hand up. Anyways, what else is going on in the... I have some stuff. I'm so scared because we had to end up recording on a different device today.
Vitor Belfort was recently announced to have a fight coming up. Who was it against? Not interesting enough to care because Vitor's one of these pretty much constant fades for me. So whoever it's against, I'm pretty much fading. Other Twitter's talk.
I don't know if there's anything else.
I feel like there
Lee
has been so much,
training.
but now when push comes to shove, I'm drawing a brain fart.
I know. I feel like a lot of it was around the Conor thing, so it was just like so much getting laid on. Holy shit, how could we forget about this? Micheal Bisping taking a fight against Kelvin.
We probably talked about this in our off time. Right. So, we have Anderson
No, it
Silva
just happened
popping.
during the match. We all found out about it. Remember when Kenny Florian?
Oh, no.
John Anik.
John Anik was like, I found this out about 30 seconds ago, and we all knew for 2 days
On Twitter.
that Anderson Silva had popped. And Micheal Bisping, who just went to sleep on pay-per-view, is going to step in on 2 weeks' notice against Kevin Gastelum. And I think he's getting a 2-for-1 on his training camp. I think he's doing a 2-for-1 as in he's still in somewhat shape from the last heavy camp that he had, and he doesn't want to wait another 8 months because he's older, or 8 weeks. He's just going to use the cardio off that. Give me Kevin Gastelum, whatever price, all day. I'm taking that money all day long.
I still might have Bisping. That's a hard fight for me to pick. I can't believe, even though it's so soon, Bisping's reach and Kelvin's fighting style makes me a little nerve-wracked. It just makes me a little... He got hurt, clipped a few times by Weidman, and I think Bisping's a better stand-up fighter. I don't like the 3 weeks either. I do think he got easily concussed in the Bisping...
Yes. In the GSP fight. Totally. So, breaking, Gian Vellante just recently was made a bout with Francimel Barroso. That is a boring-ass, disgusting fight. Gian Vellante has no chin, and Barroso has no gas tank but power. So, disgusting fight. Stay away from that all day betting. That just broke.
Yep, I'm scrolling through. I don't see any other breaking fight news of any other.
There's been a couple. I feel like Jessica I was
the other thing. I do remember. I do respect the shit out of Max Holloway of saving the Detroit card. But does Aldo need another shot at a title?
Right. We must have talked about this stuff in our off time, and that's why we've been trying to stay away from it. Because, no, he does not. I could see 10 other people stepping in on there. This is going to set precedent for where Joanna is going to say, hey, I get a direct title shot.
When you...
Yeah, but he...
how many times?
No, he already got one. He already got one.
When you handedly lose, you don't get the direct shot. If it's questionable, like the Wonder Boy, Tyron Woodley, okay. When it's questionable, I understand. Otherwise, I want to see the whole division move on. I don't want it to be stagnated up with your ego.
Agreed 100%. And
but I don't know who else there. Would I rather watch Max fight Aldo than not at all? Of course. But would I have rather Max fought Cub Swanson? Hell yeah.
100%. 100%. That's so more the deserving fight. Because Aldo did already get a title contender back for the interim belt against Max. And the only controversy that I have seen, and I do believe, is Jose Aldo was winning on the scorecards the first 2 rounds. When he got finished in the third, and the fourth and fifth weren't going to get any better for him. But one thing I did want to say to the bettors, though, one thing that I think there should be a prop on this fight, 100%, Jose Aldo's going to pop for a piss test. He's going to put on more muscle. He's traditionally done this. He puts on, he likes to bulk up and feel more athletic. He's also said a long time ago that he doesn't believe that steroids should be out of the sport because it makes fights way more boring. So he was just going to play it as it was. He has good doctors now, but with the new testing and stuff, Jose Aldo may not show up to the fight because 3 weeks notice, he's not going to be able to mask the way he wanted to, or something's going to go awry, and he's going to be expecting them to maybe try to make it work somehow. But
I agree with you. A guy that is this plague in... This is even really before I started watching, but the more research I've done, Jose Aldo, for all intents and purposes, is similar to Khabib, where he's pulled out of so many millions of fights. He's not a guy that all of a sudden takes short notice fights. All of a sudden.
Right.
3 week notice against a guy as dangerous as Max Holloway. That's a total ego fight. He's in danger all the way around in this fight. I don't see him winning at all. I think you put Max everywhere on this.
I could still see that as well. Any last little bits before we...
Let's move on to Fight Night 120.
Breakdown. Moving on to UFC Fight Night 121. This is going to be shown on Fight Pass and FS1 starting at 6:30 Eastern Time. FS1, 8 p.m. We get into the main card. This is a 13th bout card, headlining with Fabricio Verdum stepping in for Mark Hunt against Marcin Tybura. But we're going to start from the bottom up. There's, again, very interesting. A lot of debuters. We're going to Australia. We're going to Sydney.
A lot of names you can't pronounce.
Yeah, a lot of movement, though. There is a couple gems, even though there's going to be a lot of bad fights. Starting off the night, we're starting out with the big boys at heavyweight.
Can I just say, there's so much coming on later in the year. You have all the holiday time with your family. I don't ever like to tell people to miss fights, but if there is a card to be missed, to me, this is the card. I'm sorry to say that.
Interesting. I don't think you can miss anything, even over the holidays. That's just me. So, if you got to give up a weekend because it's been heavy, and guess what? To the new year, we got a shit ton of cards every weekend.
That's what I'm saying.
So I see your point. It makes sense. Once we broke it down at LaTB, remember to subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and all your YouTube needs. So, moving on to the first heavyweight bout between debuting Tai Tuivasa versus Rashad Coulter, we have Bam Bam beating Daywalker. And I'm kind of partial to Daywalker. I like that. I think it's a funny Blade spin-off of a nickname. Rashad Coulter came into the UFC and got a loss. His second loss in his 8-2 career, coming in at 6 foot with 77 inches to Bam Bam's 24-year-old 6'2". Out of New Zealand, or Australia, is Bam Bam coming from, and Coulter's fighting out of Dallas, Texas. So Coulter came in and lost to Chase Sherman, the Vanilla Gorilla himself, in a clinic of a beating. It was a striking bout. Those leg kicks really played a toll. I feel like there was performance of the night for both, because Coulter had zero gas tank, heavy hitter, but not that skilled, not that ring craft. His athleticism has really taken him far in the heavyweight division, and now that he's at heavyweight, one of the easier fights at heavyweight, I think, is Chase Sherman, and you couldn't get through that. So Ty's coming in with a 7-0 record, or Bam Bam's coming in with a 7-0 record, and at 24, he's a prospect in the heavyweight division. He reminds me of a Mark Hunt. He is a kickboxer with his takedown defense hasn't been that good because the competition level for him has been very, very lacking. I did watch a few of his fights, and he was fighting dudes off the bar stool. What I did like with Ty was that he was throwing 5-6 punch combinations, finishing it with knees and or interacting with that. He was also throwing some good leg kicks as well, which we know Coulter doesn't take well, doesn't check those kicks at all. But the gas tank, the few fights that ended up going into the second round for Bam Bam, he was breathing very, very hard, and only his sheer will and determination got him through that fight. And Rashad Coulter is that kind of a fighter. If you can outlast him in the gas tank, he will fall over and just be like, all right, you got me, or he'll allow the knockout to finish him because he can't lift his arms. With Coulter, though, he does have that under the lights UFC experience, and Bam Bam doesn't. So I think the UFC jitters can really have a play in this, and I have Ty TKO round 1 because I think he's the better striker, but I think Coulter also always has a heavy puncher's chance. I'm going to go with Ty TKO round 1. Stay away on DK. Maybe spatter it a bit, but LaTB here. We do tend to stay away from the first fight for a reason, and this is red flags all day, both sides.
Agree with you all. The suck part about the stay away on this is
It's a finish either way.
It's a finish, but I do see what you're saying about once they get out of the first round, we could just see two big guys laying on each other, throwing maybe 6 shots apiece for the round 2, and neither of them be worth any points, even as a win, maybe being 33. I think stay away from it. Something for us to look forward to. We don't have altitude to worry about tonight. We don't have heat to worry about tonight. We don't know if we have to worry about illegal substances as much like we do in Brazil. Something that I do think to worry about tonight.
Seriously, better gas tanks.
I think it's all going to be travel time tonight. It is a long flight to get to the other side of the world. Somebody who was in the Marines who had to fly to Japan.
Oh yeah, you don't get jet lag off in even like 2 or 3 days. It takes like 7 days. Some people can be, depends on the person, 14 days. It's just your body messes up. I don't think most of the fighters, though, have the incomes because they're so low-ranked fighters that they can just fly out a month ahead unless they have family down.
I would say to
Good call.
me, that's the biggest reason that you want to pick Ty on this is just because he doesn't have that travel time with somebody who already has a shitty gas tank, now with jet lag. So stay away from this all day, but something to just think about on the fights going forward tonight is a lot of the American fighters or ones fighting out of Canada, UK, they are not going to be as fresh as we see. We might even see them sluggish looking a little bit, or they might even have hard weight cuts because of it. You know how dehydrated you get flying.
Right. Or just you don't have the energy to get up at certain times because the whole day time change is also messed up. So all of it factors, weigh-ins are going to play a big role as well.
Stay away from that first fight.
Moving on to the next fight, we have Eric Shelton versus Yanel Lauza. This is two fighters that Shelton's come off of a 2-fight losing streak in the UFC, losing both of his fights to Andriaj Pantoja and also in a split decision, and also Jared Brooks in a split decision. Both of those fighters for me are contenders in the UFC. Pantoja winning the UFC Latin America and Brooks putting over 100 points in sure effort. I think the Gordon Shelton was an upset because Shelton has real potential, good all the way around. Lauza, coming out of the Philippines, being 7-3, 29-year-old fighter is 5'6" to Shelton's 5'6". The reach advantage is going to go to Lauza by half an inch to the 68.5 inches to the 68 for Shelton. As I was saying before, Shelton's a better all-around fighter. He has a better gas tank, better takedowns, and I think that the striking, if there was more of an even fight, Lauza does have good striking and okay takedown defense. But the level of wrestler that Lauza's faced in his debut in the UFC, which he lost to Magad Bibliatov, which was a decision. Actually, Lauza has 2 fights in the UFC, beating Suzuki Yao prior to that loss that he had, his third loss in a 7-3 record to Bibliatov. Bibliatov was a huge favorite, a lot of spinning attacks, and Lauza used really good footwork and has really good boxing. Lauza credits all of his boxing as well and striking to Manny Pacquiao, and there's times that he shows me some of that Pacquiao style. Very athletic young fighter, somebody who I think can stick around. I think this fight there's got to be somebody who loses, and for me, I think Shelton comes in and gets a decision. A finish can come for either one of these fighters. They're both very explosive. I think this is going to be a firefight. I could see Lauza being, depending on how cheap. The DK lines, by the way, it all depends. I'm liking Shelton decision. What do you think goes on in this fight?
I don't think judges like Shelton's style. It's something that just doesn't seem to go his way when it goes to a split, even times that I thought he should have won. Lauza's a little more explosive, and I think judges do tend to like his style. Because I see this going to decision, I see Lauza being the guy. He has less travel time. I'm going to stay away from this all day. I don't see either guy being worth their money. I'm pulling up the lines on DraftKings right now. I don't see either guy finishing this, really. And I think it's going to be a grind. I think they're going to keep wanting to get back into a grind because I think Sheldon's going to be stronger, and he's going to be able to do that and pull. I see him having ring control. I see him doing. I see us being at the end. I think Sheldon won that fight, but he's not going to win it.
It could be a split.
I'm going to stay away from it. Here, let's see. I should have the lines up now. Let's pull up this MMA. I'm going to have to put money on my DraftKings.
Oh, damn.
I've already... just because I already got myself into a bunch of contests.
Oh, okay. The lines did end up hitting last night.
Yeah, I just haven't picked any of them yet, so I'm trying to open up one of my cards that I already reserved so that way I can just pick it right here on air so we can give you the Lesbo and the Bean card.
I do think that with the odds, though, it is really tough night of fights to make because it is very widely spread. Multiple fighters over 9,000. Multiple fighters. So that makes it really, really hard to pick a favorite. And I don't see that many mismatches. I feel like this Shelton one might be in that range.
Shelton Lauza. So let's see. Neither of them are at the top. Shelton Lauza. Okay. Oh, shit. Shelton 9-2, Lauza 7. I don't see value in that for Shelton.
I agree with that. He has to get a finish, and I don't see that coming up as well. Do you mind giving me the line real quick for Bam Bam versus Coulter? When ended that being?
Coulter, Bam Bam.
Taisuva.
Oh, I just passed. They do it so weird on the computer compared to my mobile device. Okay, Coulter 7-4, Tasuva 8-8. I don't see value in Tasuva for that either. I think that's dangerous.
It could be a finish either way. That's, again, a stay away. Maybe
I think stay away from both these
one.
fights right now.
So, good to know. Moving on to the next fight, we're going to the ladies. 115-pound strawweight division. We have Alex Chambers versus Nadia Kassem. Kassem's coming in, debuting with a 4-0 record against Alex Chambers, 5-3. Chambers has already had a few fights in the UFC, having a couple losses come. She was off of the Ultimate Fighter show. Definitely a submission ace at 39 years old, Chambers. The taller fighter is going to be 5'8", Kassem, to the 5'3" of Alex Chambers. And the reach advantage we don't have yet. Kassem is coming out of a Australia top team, so I wonder if they have any ties to the American top team. They may not. But
They may. Who knows?
Kassem does have a striking-based fight. She was a kickboxer, I believe, prior to MMA, and she really uses kickboxing a lot in her fights. Alex Chambers, we know where we're getting with her at 39 years old. Gritty fighter, no power, okay output, takedowns, and on the
ground game.
Yeah, I think Chambers on the ground is where she's a little bit more dangerous. Where she's been, even though she's been submitted, it's because she submits people. Like, she goes to the ground to try to beat people and then gets eaten up. I think this is a setup fight for Kassem. Kassem being 4-0 and being the local favorite, I think they're trying to... UFC can see what's happening with Chambers just being a little bit older. If the thing that really scares me with Kassem is the fights that I ended up watching of hers that she's had in MMA were 19, 20, and 30 seconds. And then she had one go into the second round because she's blowing women out. But the reason she's blowing women out in the first 20 seconds is because one of her opponents had dyed pink hair, which doesn't matter, but she got straight out of chemotherapy, put her clothes on, and went into the ring. No joke. It was unreal, the soccer moms that she's fighting. These are happening in 30 seconds because she touched gloves, threw a spinning back fist, lady fell on the ground. Other 30-second fight. She touches gloves, throws jab, straight right, throws kicks, lady ducks down and taps because she's never been in a fight. She's fighting 0-1, 0-0 fighters.
You know what her nickname is?
What's her nickname?
187 on the motherfucking clock.
So, I think that the UFC's really gonna be putting a lot of money into this woman, Kassem, into 187 because she's pretty, she finishes people, she has that type of striking style. Get her in against a good wrestler, it's going to be money all day. I do have Kassem decision just because I think Chambers can push her up against the fences and is going to fold immediately, but I think this is more of a fade on Chambers than it is a play on Kassem. Kassem's a fade in many other fights unless she get that takedown defense under control, which we have just never seen her try. What do you think goes on in this fight?
Kassem right now is 8-3. Chambers is 7-9. Right now I have Kassem decision too. I know all of her fights beforehand have been finishes. The thing that makes me most nervous about this fight is I don't know if Kassem's ever stepped down to 115. As far as I know, all of her fights beforehand have been at 125, and that 10 pounds for a woman is a lot for me, especially with her build. She's already long and lean. So it makes me a little nervous. I also am a little nervous. I want to know how her ground game is. I have no idea what she's going to be like. If is she just a stand-up striker? I'm going to probably stay away from this one as well. Kassem at 8-3, I might have her on one or two cards. But this is something that I've learned. I'm not betting on fighters anymore that I don't know shit about, and that is to be said about Kassem. So you said it 100% correct. This is nothing for Kassem as much as it is a fade on Chambers.
Moving on to the next fight, we have a lightweight 155 bout between Damon Brown versus Frank Camacho. Damon Brown is coming in with a 17-10 record, being the Australian out of Queensland. Camacho is the crank Camacho. I just like calling him Camacho. I think it sounds better. So he's coming
Agree,
in.
the crank.
The crank.
Sounds like meth.
Or you crank one out.
Oh, yeah.
So
Googe.
Camacho's coming in on short notice as of 4 months ago to the UFC, losing a decision to Jin Liang. And what really, it was a debut fight that was for the 28-year-old fighter that was on like 2 weeks notice. And his gas tank was what lost him that fight. Jin Liang was a heavy favorite, and that went to a decision. And that's all credit to Camacho. Camacho's leg was getting eaten apart by kicks. And Jin Liang is really coming along as a fighter. I don't think that was as bad as a loss as a lot of people see it to Jin Liang. I think Jin Liang is underrated as a fighter. With Camacho being 5'9" to the 5'10" of Damon Brown, the reach advantage is actually going to go Camacho's way with a 73-inch reach to Damon's Brown 68.5-inch reach. So Damon Brown's got some shorter little arms. Damon Brown with that 17-10 record, he's a guy who got a shot in the UFC because he was, I believe, on one of their shows and came in, lost to Alan Patrick, and then rattled off a couple wins against John Tuck in a split decision. And then he, as of late, was a big favorite against Vince Pichel and was knocked out in the first round. Vince Pichel just put a hard pace on him, and Damon Brown couldn't keep it up. It's something that Brown has finishes in his record. His chin has been suspect before he got in, and Vince Pichel saw that. Didn't let him breathe at all. Doesn't matter how good your gas tank is if you can't take a punch. And I feel like Camacho can do a lot of the same. Camacho has that power, has that gas tank. His angles were good. He does have punching power. And on the ground, he's serviceable. Damon Brown has to get this fight to the ground in order to do what he needs to do. But Jin Liang, who I think is a better wrestler and ground grappler than Brown, couldn't do much against Camacho, and that's a credit to Camacho. I got Camacho TKO in round 1, maybe round 2, but I'm liking, I don't know what the DK lines are on Camacho right now, but I'm liking him. I think that this is a fight that he can win handedly. What do you
I
think?
have Camacho KO round 2.
Woo!
And a big reason that I have him KO round 2 is not only did he take the last fight on such short notice, he walked in against the guy that's in a heavier weight class altogether just to get his foot in the UFC. So he was fighting a bigger guy, and you like Yin Yang anyway. And so it's like a heavier guy that you think is a coming up guy, not a fading guy. I am not sure Damian Brown is necessarily UFC caliber in my eyes, and I think Camacho could be one that we see going forward. I see him having the better power here all day. I don't see him having to worry about getting taken down so much. I think this is going to be a stand-up fight, and if he does watch his legs, like you said, and the Camacho all day. I see 1 or 2 as well. Right now I have Camacho KO round 2. I will have him all over my DraftKings. Let's see what that price is.
Right. Is it going to be worth it to have him? Is he going to be heavy?
8-4 against Brown 7-8. I think you put Camacho for 8-4.
I think he is, yeah.
I think we add him to our Lesbo and the Bean card right now.
I like it. I like that pick a lot.
First one goes on the card.
Moving on to the next fight, we have a rescheduled bout. Adam.
And when we talk about the card, you guys, if we didn't say it again, we are on DraftKings right now. We are open to going to FanDuel, going to other formats. You just got to hit us up, FanDuel, and be like, hey, Lesbo and the Bean, we want you to be exclusive to FanDuel, and we will geek out on FanDuel. Just saying.
You let me know.
Because DraftKings don't pay us. DraftKings ain't sending Lesbo and the Bean any love. We talk about DraftKings all the time on this show. Bovada ain't sending us any love.
It's a good point.
Just saying.
It's a good point. So the rescheduled bout between Adam Wizierczak versus Anthony Hamilton. We broke this fight down a few weeks ago. The reason that it fell out was because there was some rowdy soccer fans in the Polish stands, and Wizierczak didn't feel comfortable coming out because he thought he's going to get it beat up before he got in the cage. So they rescheduled to Australia, neutral territory for both fighters. This only hurts Anthony Hamilton that much more because he's having that big flight. He just got knocked out a month ago. Absolutely no chin on a 3-fight losing streak. Wizierczak, what's his... Sweeney? It's a hard... Siwi is more of a ground specialist, but it doesn't matter. He can have rudimentary striking and still finish a fighter. This is more of a fade on Anthony Hamilton than a play on Sweeney. I do have Siwi on my cards. I don't know how much he is on DK, though, actually. I might be lying.
Looking it up right now.
I don't think it matters. I think that the flight and everything plays against...
Wezarek, 8'7", Anthony Hamilton, 7'5". So the world sees what we see now with Hamilton.
Yeah, it's more of a fade on Hamilton than anything. Eventually, I'm going to fade Siwi.
Right now, I like Wezarek, I think, but really, the number one reason I like him is because I think the Poles are sending out the monsters right now, and I love a Polish fighter. Anthony Hamilton is over. He gonna get knocked out in round 1. I think you put Wezarek everywhere.
I was thinking so, too, and for me, it's more of a fade.
Siwi on our card.
All right, wow.
DraftKings, follow us along.
Moving on, we have a lightweight bout between Will Brooks versus Nick Lentz. Will Brooks and Nick Lentz have a few fights in the UFC. Nick Lentz being the much longer fighter in the UFC, coming in with a 27-8-2 record against Brooks's 18-3 record. 2 of those losses is coming in a row for Will Brooks as of late in the UFC, not being able to get more than a 1 win in the UFC in a row. Losing to Alex Oliveira when Alex missed weight, and then Charles Oliveira submission choke 7 months ago. Will Brooks is a 31-year-old fighter to the 33 Nick Lentz, and the taller fighter is Brooks at 5'10" to Nick Lentz is 5'8". Also, the reach advantage goes to Brooks, 71 inches to the 78 for Nick Lentz. Said it before, this bout has been rescheduled a few times as well. We've talked about this extensively. Nick Lentz, we're fading more than anything. Nick Lentz has had a long traveled career. The miles are showing much harder on Nick Lentz than Will Brooks at this point in his career. Will Brooks still has a little ways to go. I think Will Brooks gets online with his wrestling, ground and pound. Nick Lentz, his gas tank has never been there. What really did scare me though in that last Oliveira fight is Oliveira dominated Brooks in the wrestling, and Oliveira hasn't really done that to anybody. So the fact that there was a hole for Brooks there, it scares me a little bit. I got Brooks TKO around 2 or 3, thinking round 2 right now, just because I think Nick Lentz is gonna fade out of here. He's just too worn for me, and even then the skill sets for Lentz are very slow in plotting forward. He tends to take damage and overtake people later in the rounds. I don't see that happening here. What do you think goes on in the fight?
Trying to look up and see what we got here for cost, and I can't find Brooks anywhere.
On DraftKings?
Okay, here we go. I was like, did this fight already get canceled? Okay, Will Brooks is 9'4" to Nick Lentz is 6'8".
Yeah. I don't see the 9'4". I don't see that 9'4" for Brooks. That's a lot. I think we wait before we put it on there.
Hear me out here.
Woo.
I think Nick Lentz is a better wrestler. I think Nick Lentz is a better grinder. I think Nick Lentz is underrated, where I've always said I think Will Brooks is overrated. Mm-hmm. I am probably going to put Nick Lentz on a few cards. 6, 7, there is value in that all day. Right now I have Lentz decision, and I can see him actually getting the better ground and pound off, wearing out Brooks's gas tank. The loss that he just had against Makhachev, I think Makhachev is better wrestler than Will Brooks, and I was actually impressed with Nick Lentz that he stayed in it the whole fight. I think Nick Lentz pulls it out this fight, and I cannot believe that Will Brooks is such a heavy favorite. He has shown nothing in the UFC to deserve this in my eyes. And I'd like to say this is a gimme fight for Will Brooks, but his fighting style is not exciting enough for the UFC to give him a gimme fight. So Will Brooks has been all talk since he's got here. Lesbo's going to stay away from Will Brooks all day, and she will put Nick Lentz on a few, and I will be able to fill my card with meat.
I think you make a very good point, and I think I'm going to move Will Brooks to decision, because the TKO may not happen. Good call. So, moving on to the next fight.
Weird one. Heavy underdog.
A big
Probably
underdog.
the biggest underdog of the night.
Because we've seen Nick Lentz really slow down, but he's always been a grinder.
Nick Lentz get finished.
The Carney.
That's what my thing is.
Right.
So 6, 7. If you're not going to get finished at 6, 7, there's value in that all day.
Actually, that's a really good point. I think you're onto something there. Moving on to the next fight, we have a flyweight bout, 125 pounds. Ryan Benoit versus Askan Mokhtari. Mokhtari's coming in with a 13-2.
Mokhtarian.
It's
it's almost like a Tarian, like
the assassin.
Mokhtarian, like it'd be Game of Thrones.
Oh, Mokhtarian.
Ashkan Mokhtarian.
It's coming in with a 13-2 record against Benoit's 9-5. Both fighters have fought in the UFC. The Assassin losing his debut in the UFC against John Moraga, which is a very underrated fighter. I feel like that was a bit on short notice, and the fact that he went to decision with Moraga, where there was just Bibliatov or one of these biggest prospects ever, couldn't get through the round with Moraga. I think that gives a lot of credit to the Assassin. And Ryan Benoit is not an easy fight. Ryan Benoit, being the 28-year-old fighter, is going to be younger to the 32-year-old Assassin. The height advantage is going to go to the Assassin by an inch, 5'6" to 5'5", and the reach advantage goes to Benoit, 68.5 inches to 67 for the Assassin Mokhtarian. Benoit's had over 5 fights in the UFC, but being checkered, winning and losing one, getting submitted by Josh Sampo, beating Sergio Pettis, losing to Ben Nguyen. Then he beat in a split decision Freddie Siriano, and then as of late lost to Brandon Moreno in a split decision. Ryan Benoit is barely hanging on to a career for me. Those split decisions that he won were close. Well, the wins that he has was a close split decision, and then Baby Pettis was beating him up and down the post until that knockout came. Ryan Benoit has power in his hands, but that's his only saving grace to me. Gas Tank really does tend to slow. His wrestling is good, and his anti-wrestling, he can keep a fight standing if he wants to, but he's been outclassed multiple times on the feet, and he tends to try to keep fights standing. Ryan Benoit doesn't have the best fight IQ either. I see a lot of people have Benoit on tap, and I don't see it. I think Mokhtarian put in a great showing. 13-2 is not a bad record. I really liked his strikes, even though he does slow down. He has good throws. He has a lot of really good hip tosses, the Assassin, but Benoit's wrestling should be able to counteract that. This is going to be a close split decision for me. I had Benoit earlier in the week, but I think it's a coin flip. I think there might be money to be made on Mokhtarian. He's an under I'm liking. I'm switching it right now. Had Benoit decision, but I'm talking myself out of Benoit. He tends to lose fights and win them, and only the few wins he's had have been by the seat of his pants. What do you think goes on in this fight?
Ryan Benoit at 8-9 on DraftKings to Mokhtarian 7-3. There is zero value in Benoit at 8-9. Even when he is having the time of his life inside the octagon, he doesn't have a shit ton of output. I agree with you here. Mokhtarian, even though I don't see him as the guy that we're ever going to see in title contention,
Agreed.
Neither is Benoit. And I don't see Benoit as UFC caliber, so one of the guys has to lose. That's Benoit to me. I don't see how...
The hometown favorite in a decision.
If I'm gonna stick with Mokhtarian, yeah, he's out of Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, which is exactly where this fight is. So I do see it going with decision.
And Mokhtarian tends to get into decisions.
Saying that alone, anything that had me on the fence with Benoit, I'm gonna stick with Mokhtarian decision. That could be our crazy heavy Leslie Smith underdog if we stick with it.
Yeah, he's being underrated. Hey,
do we put him on our card right now?
What was his price again on DK?
7-3, and right now we have an average salary remaining of 8-2. So
there's some wager gauges.
There's
some wager gauges on there. The only thing is that maybe we're gonna end up going over our card at the end and seeing which one gives us really the most value.
Right now, I'm putting them on just so we can get our average remaining value up to 8.5 because we were down at 8.2.
Okay.
Our average salary left. So moving on, we both have the heavy underdog there.
Whoa, wager gauges / LaTB so early in the night. That is, though, the end of that fight pass. It moves on to FS1 main card. We're starting with the flyweights, 145 pounds, Alexander Volkanovski versus Shane Young. Shane Young coming in at 11-3 record out of New Zealand. He is debuting in the UFC. Last fought 6 months ago, and Alexander Volkanovski is 15-1, also fighting out of Australia, debuting in the UFC, beating 11 months ago Yusuke Kasaya via TKO ground and pound 11 months ago, and then as of late being an underdog and coming in over Mizuto Hirota in a decision. The taller fighter here is going to be Shane Young at 5'8" to 5'5". Vujokovic, the great as well, Volkanovski. The Volkanovski versus Sugar Young. I'm assuming Young's the younger fighter at 24 years old compared to Volkanovski, who doesn't have an age written here, but I feel like he's around that 30 age range. Volkanovski's fighting out of Tiger Muay Thai, and Kick City Kickboxing comes for Young. Ended up watching a bit of Young's fights. He likes to keep fights standing, has good Muay Thai kickboxing, kind of weak takedown defense, can get controlled on the ground a little bit. Submissions are in his repertoire, but I think that it's more he's fighting off of his back. When he gets into those type of fights, he definitely likes to try to stay standing if he needs to, but if he gets to the ground, he's serviceable there. Unfortunately for him, Volkanovski puts people on the ground and doesn't get submitted. He understands the ground game really well. His wrestling really comes in, uses a lot of body locks, cage, a lot of fence stuff that I feel like Young will go to the fence to try to keep fights standing, and that's where Volkanovski thrives. He loves getting you to the fence, taking you down, and then ground and pounding you. I feel like this is just too big of a step up for Young. I don't know if he's coming in on short notice or what's happening here, but Volkanovski has beat better talent and has just looked better in the gas tank and all avenues of the fight, maybe other than the slight advantage for Young in the striking, but the power doesn't scare me with Young, and Volkanovski has taken great shots and kept walking through them. I got Volkanovski TKO round 2. I see just more avenues for him finishing. That might move to round 3. I'm iffy on the price. I don't know what he was on DK. What do you think goes on in this fight?
He is the most expensive fighter on DK at 9.5 to Shane Young 6.7.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that.
I have Volkanovski KO round 1, and really, it's not because I know too much about these fighters, but something with betting, when they tend to be from the same area, and I see one be such a heavy favorite, I gotta think people in that area know a ton about these two fighters.
Right.
So I see how big of a favorite that Volkanovski is, and I don't tend to follow the crowd, but I like him here. I will have him on a lot of cards because I do have that. I see that knockout in round 1. I think Shane Young will be potentially one to watch. I do think he needs to work on his ground game all the way around, so I see him easily taken down, taking some nasty elbows, and then just Volkanovski going to work. So I think you can put him everywhere, and I think he gets the takedown pretty easily.
Moving on to the next fight, we have a middleweight bout.
But we won't put him on our card because he's rather expensive right now. And
yeah,
if we can afford him later, we'll go back.
We'll see once we get there. And we have an 185-pound fight, middleweight, Elias Theodorou versus Daniel Kelly. We know we're getting with both of these fighters, longtime veterans in the sport. Dan Kelly coming in with 13-2, being the Australian Melbourne native, coming in at 40 years old, 6 foot with a 70.5-inch reach, to Elias, the Spartan Theodorou, being 13-2. Only losing in the UFC, coming out of TriStar, the 6'1" fighter has a 6-inch or 5.5-inch reach advantage over Daniel Kelly. The only loss is for Elias Theodorou, and we were ride or dies for a little while with Theodorou, but really just saw an avenue for him to lose, and you kind of can have some boring fights, Elias Theodorou.
I don't know if there's been any exciting ones.
There's sometimes when he gets hurt and gets up, he has the heart of a lion. He definitely stays in fights, but he stays in fight very tentatively and is more than okay with winning a point bout instead of trying to get the finish. He has finishing potential, but now that you're in the UFC, it's not as easy to be finishing people, and he's really been affected since then.
He's like a boring Wonder Boy.
Right. But he's got amazing kicks. He has really underrated kicks that really hurt hard. But when people can take him down, that's his flaw. And he can be outpaced. Tavares was able to outstrike him. But Tavares is definitely an up-and-comer in the division. Unfortunately for Daniel Kelly, he has been on a hell of a winning streak. I have won more money on Daniel Kelly than almost any other fighter in the UFC, but I feel like I have my grasp on Daniel Kelly. I know who he can beat and who he can lose to. I had Brunson in that fight all the way around, and there was a reason for that. Daniel Kelly is dramatically losing abilities, more so than most other fighters with his lifelong Olympic career. We've seen it more and more. He's already had multiple surgeries, have multiple tape on both ankles, can't take a punch. Tenacity and will get you far, but it's push comes to shove now. I see it all the way, Elias Theodorou. TKO round 1, if not 2. There's just, if Elias can get up from the ground, if taken down, Dan Kelly can grind the living shit out of you, but I don't think that Elias has to land anything. I think that Dan Kelly is going to take a kick to the forearms. He's going to block a shot, but it's going to be so concussive and Dan Kelly is so faded that it's going to hurt him, and then it's going to be a ground and pound TKO. Round 1, had it round 2 earlier. I'm fading Kelly more than anything in this fight. Elias Cerrado, we know how to beat you. Dan Kelly's not the type of person to beat you. What do you think goes on in this fight?
Oh, I see it going exactly the opposite way.
Oh!
I don't see Dan Kelly finishing this fight. I see
Right.
it going to a decision and it even being a sketchy split decision. I just see the hometown favorite, older guy, getting it. One thing that I don't like about the Spartan is his ground game. Daniel Kelly can get you down. He's a judo master. He might be able to get you in situations. He still has some power. He can still take some kind of beating. I think he can. It's not that I'm worried about heavy hands. Spartan has a great chin. Elias Cerrado has a great chin. He just has boring fights and those kicks. Sometimes with those kicks, I think it could lead to a takedown for Daniel Kelly, and we could just see boring Daniel Kelly laying on top of Elias Cerrado, not letting him up, just messing up his hair. That's what I see happening in this fight. I see Elias that he could actually win, and when they're standing on their feet, having easily more output, even laying more damage on Daniel Kelly. I just see more of the time in the ring, Daniel Kelly laying on top for a boring decision. And I know it's a heavy underdog. Let me look at
It's a huge but Daniel Kelly is always an underdog, and rightfully so he should be. He's all great.
I do see Daniel Kelly losing just like you do. He just doesn't tend to lose in Australia.
Also a factor. I like where you're going.
Right now, Cerrado 9, Kelly 7-2. There is a little value in both guys to me.
I agree because it's a finish one way or decision the other.
See, I just don't see Elias finishing. I don't see Daniel Kelly being the first guy who finishes. I don't see Elias having Derek Brunson power. Derek Brunson can knock it. To me, in the 185, Derek Brunson can knock any of the guys out. This is actually an interesting fight for me all day. It makes me think the UFC is protecting Elias. And I think Daniel Kelly is the wrong guy to send him to when you're protecting somebody. I have mad credit for Daniel Kelly.
Big underdog. Big underdog.
Huge.
Big underdog.
I'll pepper him on some cards, but I will not have Elias anywhere.
I think I'm going to have Elias on a couple. I think I am. I see the finish. Completely split. It makes it a fun night. I feel like I'm coming in with most of the bettors.
You're going with Lesbo or the beat on this one. Yeah, you're with the fans for sure.
Yeah, I'm going with the favorite. So you got a big underdog here, but you had a better night than me. I only went like 8 in 11 or whatever of last week, so you killed me.
13.
Or 13 or 9 or whatever. But winning weekend either way. So regardless of who you're listening, we're still winning. We're not under 50% on our picks, which
no way.
A lot of bettors can't say that.
We're both over 60.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
This has been a rough year for all MMA.
Underdogs and everything. Rightly so. All right, moving on to the next fight of the night. We have Jake Matthews at welterweight versus Bojan Veljković. Serbian Steel versus the Celtic Kid himself. Jake Matthews, an Australian, having an 11-3 record against Serbian Steel's 15-5, coming out of Nova South Siberia Elevation Fight Team. I feel like Serbian Steel has come to the United States and is training out of Elevation Top Team up there, getting his lungs under him. And Jake Matthews is still fighting at Nexus. I feel like I've heard him come around to the California scene as well. The 23-year-old fighter usually beats people in age against Serbian Steel's 28. The taller fighter, Serbian Steel 6'2", with a 4-inch reach advantage, 76 inches to Jake Matthews, 72 inches. Jake Matthews is learning fight by fight. The only thing I don't like with Jake Matthews is that he's got a little bit of quit in him. When he's a physical specimen, looks like an action figure, a triangle, incredibly athletic, but when push comes to shove, I've seen him wilt in a couple fights. In precarious situations where I agree you're hurt, but that's what takes you to the next level, is being hurt and still being able to come back. And I've seen him just be like, all right, you got me. And specifically in the Lee fight, what set up that finish for Lee to the rear naked choke submission was he got wizarded really hard by a good wrestler, and he defended wrongly. Jake Matthews defended wrongly by posting with his head instead of his hand. And that pressure with his head concussed him on the ground. His brain may have been scrambled, but he didn't react. He froze. rear naked choke came. That's happened in a couple other losses. Jake Matthews is coming off of a 2-fight losing streak to Kevin Lee, as I was saying, and also Anthony Holbrook in a split decision. And Holbrook isn't everything we always wanted as well, and it's a testament to that little bit of quit that Jake Matthews has in him. Holbrook just put a pace on him and was able to outposition him. That was a split decision. It could have went either way, but the fact that he went to split with Holbrook has me a little tentative on Jake Matthews' career, which was much more hyped earlier on. Serbian Steel is the type of fighter that will do everything you don't want in a fight. He will push you up against the fence. Good clinch fighter, good ground and pound, good gas tank, hard punches. His striking is a bit more rudimentary, but Jake Matthews really likes to use that body lock and get in trips, use a lot of judo, and Serbian Steel has a counter for a lot of those, and is a very physically strong fighter from what everybody has said. Serbian Steel is coming off of a loss in the UFC to Darren Till in a unanimous decision, which all of a sudden looks a little bit better. And then also winning in the UFC, losing to Sultan Aliyev in a split decision, beating Nick Mazzotti in a TKO, also Alex DiCiario, and there was a weird Mike Graves decision by majority that I feel like Graves won due to the wrestling, but was overturned due to weed or something like that. Either way, I like Serbian Steel. If you've been listening to what I'm saying, I think Volkovic has everything to break the type of fighter that Matthews is. Though Matthews is making bigger leaps in his career right now, we could see a completely rejuvenance in his career at any point in time because he's still growing.
He's a baby.
Exactly. Where Serbian Steel is starting to get more set in his ways, but he's done everything right by also coming to the States and training at elevation. I'm liking Serbian Steel decision. This is one that I'm going to stay away from. I think that they can counteract each other and turn it into a decision. Pitter-patter, they go to the ground, but nothing really happens. In 29-28, Serbian Steel. What do you think goes on?
I also have Serbian Steel on this fight, which is really crazy because he's a heavy underdog right now. Jake Matthews is 8'5", and Vilikovic is 7'7". So Serbian Steel is a crazy underdog, and that actually surprises me on this. Something that worries me about Jake Matthews is he takes one to get one, and you do not want to do that against Serbian Steel.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think Serbian Steel is a grinder, so everywhere that Jake Matthews shines, I think Serbian Steel stifles that. I think Serbian Steel's smartest bet in this fight is if he pushes Jake Matthews away, which he has the strength to do, pushes him away and keeps it as a stand-up fight, Jake Matthews is going to get knocked out, and I have a KO round 2. Ooh. I will have Serbian Steel on some, and I'm going to have so much money.
There's so many
much money extra on my DraftKings, but I will have Bojan Vilikovic, Serbian Steel on a bunch of cards. And it's not because I'm fading Jake Matthews. He's such a young kid. I like all his skill set. I really just think he needs to get with the right camp and start working on the defense. Like, use the Demetrius Johnson train of thought is so many of these fighters are training to hit instead of training not to be hit. And that Dominic Cruz, Jake Matthews needs a little bit of that, and this is not the guy. But this is where I agree with you, where it's a little dangerous, where you don't want to put Vilikovic, Serbian Steel on everything. The Celtic kid, we could see him, it could be 25, it could be 26, it could be this fight that all of a sudden, okay, now he's in his run. Yep. We're about to see him make his run. And so Jake Matthews is one of those guys that at any moment we could see him make his run.
Yep.
And I just don't think it's yet. I think Serbian Steel, especially like you were saying, that Till fight to go to decision, Till's always been a guy that's like been on the tip of my tongue of badasses in the UFC, and I thought Till was going to murk him in that fight. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it went to decision is surprising as hell to me. So
I think a lot of people were surprised there. So, moving on to the next fight, we have this is sneakily one of my favorite fights of the night.
I think this could be the fight of the night. This is the fight bone. Dana's going to love this fight.
Yeah, just everything's there for it. We have Tim Dirty Bird Means versus Bilal, remember the name Muhammad, at 170 pounds. The 12-2 Muhammad versus 27-8 for Means. Both fighters have a lengthy career. Tim Means a much longer, being the Dirty Bird. Tim Means being 33 years old to the 29 Muhammad. The reach advantage is going to come in for Means with a 75-inch reach to the 71. And the height advantage also comes in for Means 6'2 to 5'10. Bilal Muhammad has fought multiple other tall fighters, and he tends to do well. He understands how to fight taller guys, so I'm not really worried there. We know what we're getting with both of these fighters. Muhammad is a grinding wrestler, can take a little more damage than I like, but has serviceable striking. Tim Means is definitely a stand-up striker with a nasty ground game. Tim Means is not an easy fight for anybody. What I like in this fight, why I think it can be such a showcase fight, is because either one of these fighters can win in a submission or TKO finish at any point in time of this fight. Muhammad tends to be more of the wrestling-based guy, where Means tends to be the striker who learned the ground game to get back to striking so that people don't want to go to the ground with him. And he's so long and lengthy that really plays well for him. Donald Cerrone has played that well. But Tim Means has had the more grueling career to me. He's been in much higher level fights for much longer, and he's worn it a little bit worse. Tim Means it's always had a serviceable gas tank as well. His elbows have really come to shine as of late, and I feel like Muhammad can get caught against elbows in the break at times. Muhammad's coming off of a 2-fight winning streak in the UFC against Randy Brown, who doesn't look so bad right now, and Jordan Mein, who I feel like Jordan Mein is a baby version of a Tim Means. They fight a lot alike, and Muhammad has lost to Luque in a TKO, and also there was another fight against Joban in a decision. In between there, he had a win over Augusto Montano. I think this is right at the level that Belal Muhammad needs to be at. Tim Means is a gatekeeper. He's not going to run for the title anytime soon, and Muhammad needs to get over a fight over someone like this. Garcia is also a prospect that couldn't get it, so Garcia not looking so good in the UFC. Muhammad is one of those guys that's right at the brink, and I do think he's still growing, even though he's 29. I just think the miles are going to come in a little bit more. I have decision Muhammad right now, and I think he can get through the first round and then just turning this into a wrestling match and withhold against all the submissions. What do you think goes on in this fight?
I like what you're saying, especially when I look at the price on DraftKings, and Tim Means is 9-1 against, remember the name, Muhammad 7-1.
Yep.
That's a crazy discrepancy for Tim Means. The thing I do like about this fight and the numbers that they give is the style both guys have is going to be a four-standard fight. I think we're going to see a Max Holloway style fight. We're going to see the line drawn. We're going to see both guys bang, which means whoever has the weaker chin is going to get knocked out. The weaker chin to me is Muhammad. So I have Means KO round 3. I think it's going to be a grueling fight. I think it's going to be exciting. The Dirty Bird, one thing we know about him for sure is he has a chin. I don't know whether he's concussed or not, but he's not knocked out. So I got Tim Means. I think he withstands it. I don't think he has to worry about being submitted. There's no way Belal's ground game is anywhere near Cowboy Alverez. So I think Tim Means is safe here. I think it's a stand-up game. That being said, Muhammad could still clip him. He still has the power.
Sure.
It's just hard to knock out the Dirty Bird. I got Dirty Bird KO round 3.
Ooh, Muhammad decision's an underdog on that. And I don't go with big underdogs, but there's a split decision written all over that fight for me. Because we do see it finishing either way and it turns into a decision. It has that written all over it as well. Moving on to the co-main event, we have Rowdy Bec Rawlings versus debut fighter Jesse Rose Clark fighting out of Titan FC. Bec Rawlings being 6-7 against the debuting Rose Clark at 7-4. Both of these fighters don't have good records. 15-50 for Bec Rawlings, only because she's was on the show and is fighting in Australia and is a name favorite. There were so many other local guys that should be the co-main event in this spot, and only because they're trying to promote potentially this division. Bec Rawlings coming off of a 2-fight losing streak in the UFC against Paige Van Zandt and Tisha Torres. The Tisha Torres I thought would be more of a blowout. I really liked what Bec did in that. She came together. That Paige Van Zandt loss didn't look as bad after what she did against Torres. Though Torres flew to Queensland, I think that was an advantage for Bec in that fight. Torres did say that the lag got to her, she's not going to have that against Clark. Unfortunately for Clark, she hasn't fought anywhere near the caliber. Titan FC has something to be said for, but Titan FC doesn't have the caliber of fighters that the UFC does in this division specifically.
Especially in the women's division.
Right. So, her having a losing record in decisions against Sarah Kaufman and last coming off a split decision win against Carolina Dam. It's just, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch too much. There was a fighter I didn't get to watch more of, was Rose Clark, and I feel like I don't need to know much about this. What I need to know is that they're specifically putting in Bec Rawlings as a co-main event. Who has a name here? The debut fighter or the person that's been on the show? Bec Rawlings. They're trying to get her out of this slump. Now that she's fought Paige, I think there might be trying to get her another Paige fight after this because Paige could beat her again. And I just don't have any faith in the younger fighter. Well, the younger fighter being Bec Rawlings, but the taller fighter is also Bec, and the reach advantage is going to go to Clark. I have Bec decision, but I'm staying away from this fight all day long. I don't see a finish for either fighter. I could even go for the underdog by the time I end up looking at tape. I just see there's so much more money to be made in every single other fight. Stay completely away from this. This has something that should be a given for Bec that she fucks up because it happens all the time.
Bec Rawlings 8-6, Jessie Clark 7-6 right now on DraftKings. I see this going a little differently. I think the UFC likes Bec. I think Bec brings eyes in the Australian audience. I think she has an interesting look. She has a presence on social media. Blah, 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 blah. They're desperate for women's talent in the 115. Oh, look this is a 125 fight. So we're also seeing Bec fight up, maybe closer to her natural weight. This is a gimme fight for Bec all day. Bec should be able to finish this fight all day. All day.
What you just said, though, with this 125, I didn't realize that. It eluded me. This is a flyweight fight. What they could be doing here is putting in Rose Clark to be an immediate title contender or Bec Rawlings here. It's just the co-main event is there to highlight them, even though they have shitty records. It doesn't make any sense at all.
This girl is just, to me, she's being fed to Bec all day. I'm just starting to look at certain cards that are going on, certain fighters. We're hearing about Bullet. We're hearing about Paige Van Zandt. We're hearing about Jessica Ai, Bec Rawlings.
Bec looked better.
What a perfect way that you invite your baby Paige Van Zandt into the 125, then against a person who's coming off a win in the 125, Bec Rawlings. I think you're so right on this all day. This fight is a setup fight for Bec Rawlings, so Bec Rawlings looks like a contender when she's going against Rose. That's all it's for.
Yep.
I even say this. It might be an easy, quick victory for Bec Rawlings.
I know, but that's the scary thing.
So we see Paige Van Zandt on the December card.
I can so see that.
I'm putting Bec Rawlings on a lot of cards.
She can underperform, though.
I thought she looked good against Tisha.
She can underperform. She has mental issues where she has come in. She got her boobs done after the fact.
She's fighting in her hometown. I like the way she looked against Tisha.
Yeah, she did.
I've been liking Bec of late. I'm going to go with Bec Rawlings, and I will have her on cards, even though I understand what you're saying. No offense, Jessie Rose Clark. You chum. You chum into WADA. You chum into WADA.
She's getting her foot in the door. She's getting her foot in the UFC door, for
and
sure.
You know what else Bec Rawlings can be? For the first time in her career, Rowdy. She can be Rowdy Bec Rawlings.
Oh, agreed 100%.
So, Bec Rawlings KO. I will have her on my DraftKings cards.
All right, so we finally made it to
but
the
we
main
will
event.
not put her on the Lesbo and the Bean card.
Agreed. So, the main event, we got Fabricio Verdum versus Marcin Tybura.
Oh, I have bet KO round 3, by the way. I don't know if I said that.
I moved it to KO round 3 as well because I see the setup. It's all there. It's all in the writing. So, with the main event, if you haven't subscribed and or follow us, remember to give us a like on that little YouTube thing. Hit subscribe so you
can
just
put
get
the little bell on YouTube. If you hit the little bell, you'll get notifications, so you'll be the first to know when we come out.
To get the money lines to come out on these so you can get all these underdogs because we got a shit ton of underdogs tonight, throwing it out there.
And if you're listening to us in any form of audio, press subscribe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the main event is with longtime former champion Fabricio Verdum coming in against a fighter who is 16-2 coming out of Poland, having multiple fights in the UFC. I think Tybura's had about 5 fights in now. 4 fights to be specific, losing his debut against Timothy Johnson, then coming off of a 3-fight winning streak against, listen to this, Victor Pesta, Luis Henrique, not a bad win right there. In a TKO his last fight, and then beating Andrei Arlovski in a decision 4 months ago. Marcin Tybura is a striker, likes to keep it standing, limited ground game. He can more just fend off submissions against other heavyweights if they're not Fabricio Verdum. Fabricio Verdum is a longtime black belt, submitted all of the greats. His striking has come along so much better as of late. As long as he's not blitzing with his hands down like he did against a few fights where he got knocked out against the belt holder. And then the decision to Overeem, we all say, was not right. It ended up turning into a striking bout, but Overeem also has the submission ability and defense to keep that off of the ground.
The UFC likes Overeem. They do not like Fabricio.
Right, especially with all of the talk and all of the bashing he's done. So, either way with this,
really, to
skills-wise,
me personally, they're trying to keep Fabricio Verdum as far as they can from Stipe Miocic. I just see it happening every fight. He doesn't get any closer. He just gets further away.
Tybura's not a closer fight.
Not
Tybura
at
on
all.
a 3-fight winning streak against Henrique is the best of them all, and Henrique is starting to turn into a contender. Arlovski is just a gatekeeper, but Tybura tends to keep it striking. He doesn't have power though. If there's heavyweights that don't have power, Tybura doesn't throw with power. Tybura kills you by 1,000 cuts, and Verdum has the diverse enough striking to be able to knock you out on the feet and submit you on the ground. What fighters are starting to realize, though, with Verdum gets rocked many times, but Overeem didn't take the bait. Overeem knocked him down and then stayed up standing. I think Tybura can do the same thing, but I think Fabricio Verdum, with a good head on his shoulders, not blitzing at all, can beat Tybura striking. I think Mark Hunt would have lost potentially at his point in stage in his life because it would have been striker versus Tybura, but the submission aspect for Verdum coming in against Tybura adds such a different avenue that Verdum can push him up against the fence, get him down, and the fight's over as well. I see submission or a TKO ground and pound. If not striking, I just have Verdum every check mark other than the age, with the 40 years old to the 32. The experience goes Verdum's way. The reach goes to Tybura, but the height goes to Verdum 6'4", only an inch reach advantage for Tybura. I'm liking Verdum everywhere. I'm going to probably put Verdum in a lot of spots as well.
I already put Verdum on our card.
Yeah.
Before you even started talking, I pretty much knew the way you were going to feel about it. Verdum is 9'3". He is kind of expensive to Tybura 6'9", but that is... Verdum can take this fight wherever he wants to go. I can see him setting up a head kick and then submitting him. I don't see him taking any necessary shots that he doesn't need to. He's going to set up whatever he needs to take his back and get him out of there. Verdum is the number 2 guy to me in the division behind Stipe. I still think he beat Overeem. He's the fight I'd be more in. I kind of like the way the Predator, the Ngannou Overeem setting up just for striker, and I think it's a great test for us to see Ngannou. I think Verdum beats this fight and gets the winner of that fight. I think the UFC is going to save Stipe as long as they can. I think he brings a good audience. I think he's an all-American type guy. I think we put Verdum everywhere. I have submission round 2. And it's not because I don't like Tybura. But this is the other thing I will say, all that being said. If Tybura wins this fight, he is on the fast track. He is on the fast track to wherever next. It will be so impressive to me if he gets past this monster.
At the heavyweight division, anybody can be knocked out. We've seen it happen multiple times. Tybura, though, is, again, death by 1,000 cuts. And Verdum, yeah.
Just put Verdum everywhere.
We said it all.
So now we are at this thing where our average remaining salary, we have Camacho on our card, Wezarek,
against Hamilton.
We have Camacho against Brown.
Mm-hmm.
We have Wezarek against Hamilton. We have Makatari against Benoit. We have Verdum against Tybura. We have 2 spots left and an average remaining salary of 8-1.
Ooh, so who are some of the other underdogs?
See where else we agreed
And do we have a LaTB underdog pick? Because I think we got a couple.
I got to open up my picks.
Matara being one of them. Who else do we have being an underdog that we like?
That we agreed on.
Serbian Steel was also another one.
What's Serbian Steel's name? I do think we already have him on our DraftKings.
Volkovic versus Jake Matthews.
I
think they're
I think we need to put Serbian Steel on.
Yep, there it is. There's another one. That's a good one.
7-7. And now we have an average salary of 8.6 remaining. So let's scroll down and see what our avail. I like Volkovic for our Leslie Smith underdog pick.
I was thinking that too. That's what I was thinking.
Steel. I can see the design.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it.
him.
Are you feeling anything for our cover art for our YouTube channel this week?
I guess
Sydney?
that's going to be a surprise.
Great
Sydney.
white chum in the water, except a face of Bec Rawlings on the shark.
It will be a surprise.
Okay, so the money we can afford left with our 8.6 remaining, we can afford Bec Rawlings for 8.6. We can afford Jake Matthews for 8.5, but we don't want him because we're picking against him.
Right.
Cassim against Chambers for 8.3. Chambers 7.9. Brown 7.8. Clark 7.6. Hamilton 7.5. Then we get into the Dan Kelly 7.2. Belil Muhammad 7.1.
Oh, dang.
I think we got to go with Rowdy Bec Rawlings. It's her hometown. I know it's weird.
So. I think
but we can
do.
afford her, and we see the writing on the wall.
And I'm not going to have her everywhere. I'm not going to have Bec everywhere, even if I can afford her on a lot of cards.
All right, you guys, here's the crazy Lesbo and the Bean DraftKings card for the week. We got Camacho, Wezarek, Mokhtarian, Verdum, Vilovic, and Rowdy Bec Rawlings to close it out. And we are submitting that so you guys can play along with us and see how we do. We had different picks, so follow who you'd like. Play a combination of both. Like and subscribe everywhere. At Lesbo and the Bean on Twitter. LesboandTheBean.com. That's all I have to say about that.
Lesbo and the Bean!